Good morning to all our viewers across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, to all our viewers in the diaspora, and of course our media colleagues who are here with us, and those of you via the online platform. Welcome to this morning's press conference. I am Sherry Noel. This morning's press conference is facilitated by the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry. The press conference will be focusing on the following areas: land regularization program, the policy waiver on interest, brief update on squatting regulation matters, and distribution of land deeds and related documentations. On the head table with me, we have the Honorable Andy Williams. He is the Minister for Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation. Honorable Lennox Andrews, who is presently in Carriacou. We also have with us Mr. Javan Williams, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, Ms. Judy Ann Thomas, Coordinator of the Land Tenure Regularization Unit, and we do have with us the Director of Lands and Surveyors, Mr. Seth Sinclair, and Mr. Alan Gilbert, CEO of the Planning and Development Authority. Good morning once again, and we are going to get straight into it. And first up, we'd invite Honorable Andy Williams to make some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, and I want to say good morning to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Good morning to the media and everyone that's listening. Today, I wish to speak to you on a matter that touches the lives, dignity, and future of many people: land regularization. For decades, access to lands has represented land ownership. It has meant security for families, opportunity for growth, and a foundation upon which dreams can be built. In 2004, this government made a clear and deliberate commitment to pursue land regularization, to bring order, fairness, and legality to land ownership across our nation. That commitment still stands, and today we reaffirm it. We understand the realities facing many Grenadians. There are individuals and families who have lived on lands for years, sometimes generations, without formal documentation. There are young people striving for a foothold, hoping to claim their own piece of land and the Grenadian pie. These are not abstract issues. They are real, challenging issues affecting livelihoods, stability, and peace of mind. But as a government, we must balance compassion and responsibility. Land regularization is not simply about distributing land. It is about doing so in a way that is fair, transparent, and legally sound. It is about protecting the rights of all parties, ensuring proper planning, and safeguarding the long-term development of our country. We cannot and will not take shortcuts that creates more problem down the line. Instead, we are committed to doing this the right way, through structured processes, proper verification, and adherence to the rule of law. That is how we ensure that we build today while standing strong and long for generations to come. I want to take this moment to commend the hard-working team driving this initiative from the Ministry of Agriculture. Your dedication, your persistence, and your professionalism are helping to turn a long-standing commitment into meaningful progress. To the Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Lands, Minister Lennox Andrews, who is not here today, I extend sincere congratulations for your leadership and continued efforts in advancing this critical work. Your stewardship is helping to bring clarity, order, and opportunity to many across our nation. To the people of Grenada, I say this: we hear you, we understand you, we understand your aspirations, and we are working diligently to create pathways for lawful land ownership that benefits all. This is not just a policy. It is part of a broader vision to empower our citizens, strengthen communities, and build a more equitable society. Together, we will continue this journey, steadfast, responsible, and committed, to ensuring that every Grenadian has a fair opportunity to share in the blessings of our land. Thank you.
Then we say thank you very much to the Honorable Andy Williams for that presentation there. And as he mentioned, it's a very important and significant matter to be addressed at this time. So we want to move right along and invite the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Javon Williams, to make his presentation.
Good morning to the people of Grenada, the diaspora, the media, and to all listening out there. As a ministry, we want to thank Minister Williams for agreeing to sit in for Minister Andrews this morning. And I want to reiterate or follow through with where we have just ended, to let you know that the government trust is to ensure that we can encourage land security and economic empowerment to our persons who desire to own a piece of land. In order for us to do that, we must be mindful of the argument between legality and social needs or social construct. There are those who may say that squatting, for instance, should be considered as a social issue. But for societal development and improvement, you cannot divorce the two, because a society must be constructed and developed through legal means. This morning's session, the ministry has decided to have the program manager for land tenure regularization, or coordinator, our director, Mr. St. Clair, and our representative from the CEO from physical planning. The intention is for us to understand the significance, sequence, or structural arrangements for land use and development. We want to encourage you to look carefully at following the processes that are required for allotment of lands. We want to remind you that the situation out there is a little bit tenuous. It is very complex because, for instance, we can even determine that we may have an exponential problem because persons are inadvertently or willingly acquiring persons' lands illegally and constructing. We have situations where 4 instances in particular where persons have constructed on lands that are legally belonging to 4 other persons. In the regularization process, now we have 8 lots to find because this 4 belongs to somebody else legally, and 4 persons went there and they're there over time. What do? We have to look at the social issue. So as the minister said, the intention is to really structure this thing. We're asking for patience, we're asking for time, we have to stop what has been happening over the years and to ensure that we can put systems in place so everyone benefits at the end of the day. So I'm encouraging you to listen carefully at from the technical people so the ministry itself can take charge and change this matter of land problems in Grenada. I thank you.
Thank you very much, P.S. Williams. So we're going to move right along to Ms. Judy Ann Thomas. She's the coordinator of the Land Tenure Regularization Unit. Mrs. Thomas.
Thank you. Good morning to members of the media, distinguished stakeholders, and the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Today I address to you in my capacity as the coordinator for the Land Tenure Regularization Program to firstly provide an update on the program, secondly, address the issues of outstanding payments and accumulated interest, thirdly, address the process of the issuance of indentures, and finally, to provide some general information. These matter directly to fairness, security, and the responsible management of our country's most valuable source, land. Update on the project. The government of Grenada remains unwavering in its commitment in resolving long-standing land tenure issues through the land regularization program. a critical policy initiative designed to provide citizens with a clear, lawful, and equitable access to Crown lands. The program was launched in 2024 for a period of 2 years in the first instance. The government had seen the need to extend the program for a further period of 1 year commencing May 2026. For the past 2 years, the program has made steady progress. In 2025, a total of 89 indentures were completed and distributed. This reflects the extensive work undertaken, including review of records dating as far back as the early 1980s, the closure of long-standing accounts, and the preparation of indentures, in some instances exceeding 55 years. For the current year of 2026, the program is pleased to report that for the first quarter, a total of 103 indentures are currently being processed. Out of this number, 20 have been completed, while 83 are currently in preparation. This is supported by ongoing surveying activities, data restructuring, and digitization of records, with the objective of piloting at least one land settlement on a modernized land registration system. The field officers attached to the project have reviewed over 150 Crown land settlements, while administrative teams continue to engage members of the public to advance case processing and resolution. At present, yes. The Ministry has taken this opportunity to remind all allottees of Crown lands who have completed making payments and have been contacted by the field officers or the personnel from the Lands Department within the Ministry to visit our offices promptly to complete the necessary formalities, including provisions required for stamps, fulfillment of tax obligation, and settlement of minor administrative costs to facilitate a timely issuance of the indentures. The project and the Lands Division within the Ministry continues its collaboration with the Grenada Housing Authority in relation to the Lacalum settlement. We are pleased to report that several occupants are actively servicing their accounts and 13 have completed their payments. Their indentures are currently being prepared for distribution. Additionally, 5 persons have received lifetime warranty on their land. A separate engagement will be conducted for the occupants within that vicinity. Today, we are honored to have 2 recipients out of 10 represented to formally receive their indentures, marking a significant milestone in their journey towards land tenure security. Despite the issues, land regularization continued to prioritize complex areas as River Road, Dabo, Telescope, and communities where regularization presents unique challenges. Notwithstanding these complexities, the program, and by extension the government, remains resolute in creating a clear, equitable pathway to Crown land ownership. While we acknowledge the progress made, it is important to highlight several existing challenges, including related to outstanding payments and accumulated interest, tax obligation, and spatial delineation. In several instances, delinquency in payments have resulted in the accumulation of significant interest. Allottees, in accordance with the law, granted a period of 12 years to complete their payments. However, with an annual compounded interest rate of 5%, some accounts have accrued interest exceeding the original purchase price. Additionally, many allottees have not met their required property tax obligations on lands allocated to them. At present, 11 prepared indentures are unable to be registered due to outstanding tax obligations. In response to these challenges, the Ministry have taken decisive action. We are therefore pleased to announce that Cabinet, by decision dated 2nd March 2026, have approved a waiver of interest on qualifying accounts. The conditions of the waiver are as follows. 1. The account must be 12 years and over. 2. The occupant must have an existing agreement with the Government of Grenada. 3. The outstanding principal must be paid in full within 90 days of notification. 4. Failure to comply may result in subdivision of the land to a more manageable size, consequently granting others the opportunity to own Crown lands, or forfeiture of the said land in accordance with the provision of the Crown Lands Act, Chapter 73. 5. A covenant will be applied requiring beneficiaries to retain ownership of the land for a period of 5 years to prevent short-term resale. This waiver is for an initial period of 3 months, and the eligible persons are strongly encouraged to contact the ministry to take full advantage of this opportunity. It is important to note that the government anticipates a revenue loss of approximately $10 million as a result of this policy. However, this measure reflects the commitment and fairness, accessibility, and resolution of a long-standing land matters of national interest. To support the implementation of this initiative, a dedicated secretariat comprising of adjudicators and department representatives will be established to ensure transparency, accountability, and efficiency. To improve the capacity and service delivery, the ministry intends to establish 2 land regularization sub-office parishes in the parishes of St. Andrew and St. Patrick. This initiative is aimed at reducing the burden to travel to St. George's for routine matters. The public will be duly informed of these arrangements when finalized. The success of this program continues to depend heavily on public cooperation. We therefore urge all beneficiaries to remain current with their financial and tax obligations. The ministry also wishes to advise the public that public engagement activities will be re-established alongside members of the anti-squatting unit. Let me be clear, while the program seeks to regularize individuals who have been residing on government land for extended periods, it does not and will not promote legitimizing squatting. Squatting still remains illegal and will be addressed in accordance with the law. In recent times, the ministry have received an excessive amount of new applications for government lands. However, the public must be reminded that the government only owns approximately 10% of the nation's lands, with a significant portion designed for forest reserves. As such, the availability of crown lands is extremely limited. All applications will be subjected to rigorous assessment, and cabinet reviews and approval will be necessary and highly constrained. In closing, land remains one of our most valuable national assets and a fundamental pillar of our development and independence. It is incumbent upon all of us to treat this resource with seriousness and the responsibility it deserves. The government of Grenada remains committed to ensuring fairness, transparency, and sustainable land management for the benefit of all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Julianne Thomas, for that thorough update. As we talk land tenure regularization, we now move over to the Director of Lands and Surveys, Mr. Seth Sinclair.
Hello, good morning to everyone. I will just speak briefly on how to obtain crown lands. So by obtaining crown lands, it's a simple process. You start with an application form, and it's in the form of just writing a letter directed to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, applying for crown lands. After that application is received, we conduct a survey or we locate lands. And the survey would be conducted. After the survey, then we carry on to do a valuation of the property. From the valuation, we prepare a submission to send to Cabinet. All lands must be approved by Cabinet. And once there is a Cabinet approval, a letter would be sent to the allottee, letting them know the terms and conditions of the sale. And that allottee would have to come into the department, and an account card and a passbook would be opened. So the account card and the passbook is basically to track the payments made by the allottee. And once that is done, it's normally 12 years to pay for crown lands. So they have 12 years to pay for the land. And once the payment is completed, the lands are being conveyed to them. That's it.
Thank you very much. Now you know exactly what you need to do in order to be able to obtain a parcel of land from the government, which we call crown lands. So now that you've heard a bit from all of the presenters, we open. Sorry. Yes.
relations.
Mr. Gilbert, you're right next to me and I want to leave you out. So our final person to make a presentation this morning is Mr. Alan Gilbert, and he is the CEO of the Planning and Development Authority.
Say good morning to the Honorable Minister Williams, P.S. Williams, other colleagues on the table, fellow Grenadians, stakeholders, and to those in the media, say good morning to you. I want to express that, I want to express the PDA's appreciation for collaborative nature in which we attempted to address some of these issues relating to land and to building on lands, especially on lands that is not owned by the developer, and how we treat with or how we address those issues. The PDA, from the PDA standpoint, we have just been following our mandate, and I just want to say as a preamble that Grenada is developing at a very fast rate. And if that rate of development exceeds our ability to manage it, we will end up in chaos. So it is prudent, it is incumbent upon us as the PDA to follow our mandate as closely as possible while being sensitive to the social effects, while being sensitive to the negative fallout, but to follow our mandate as closely as we can, which in turn leads to a better Grenada for all of us. And so we care dearly about the lives and livelihoods of individuals, but as an organization, I want to say that we have a mandate to follow, and we are doing our very best to do so equitably and at the same time in a sensitive manner. I just want to highlight our mandate as according to the Act. I want to read some of them verbatim so that persons understand what it is we ought to be doing, and then just share a little bit about demolition process and approvals, and I'll be done in a flash. So our mandate is to ensure the appropriate and sustainable use, or ensure that appropriate and sustainable use is made of publicly owned and privately owned land in Grenada, and to do so in the public interest. Also to facilitate a continuous improvement in the quality of life of every person in Grenada. And this is interesting because they speak to the social aspect. Also to provide for the orderly, efficient development of resources, like use of water, which is becoming very critical in Grenada, taking account of all relevant social, economic, and environmental factors, so as to ensure that sustainable use is made of land in the interest of all people of Grenada. Maintain and improve the quality of the physical environment within which human settlements are situated in Grenada. We have a few more, but just read one more, which is to provide for the orderly subdivision of land and provision of services in relation thereto. So I stated this as the backdrop of which we perform our various functions. And one of our functions is a compliance function to ensure that persons comply with the Act. The Act clearly states in Part 3, Section 16, that subject to Section 18, no person shall commence or carry out the development of land in Grenada without the prior written permission of the authority. So while we have an issue of squatting, which have been addressed on land regularization, we have a secondary issue, which is that of persons constructing, building, or what we term developing lands without the permission of the planning authority. And that is also an illegal situation that is also being dealt with. And so sometimes there's some synergies between the person squatting as well as squatting, but also building without planning's approval. Even if land is regularized, persons also need to ensure that they seek the permission of the planning authority to build. So they must provide drawings in triplicates to the authority. We will review and then grant approval where deemed appropriate. If that is contravened, then the planning authority has some actions that we can take. And in One case I want to refer you to, just going straight to, of course, we have what is called an enforcement notice, we have also what is called a stop notice, but I want to just refer you to section 54, which speaks more about demolition, because I know persons have been curious about that and the process relating to that. So section 54 says, if a person carries out any work in contravention of the building code or the regulations, the authority may, without prejudice to any prosecution on this part, by notice, require the owner or the occupier to pull down or remove the work, or, if the owner so elects, to effect such alterations therein as may be necessary to make it compliant with the building code or regulations. Part 2 of that says that if a person on whom a notice is served under this section fails to comply with the notice before the expiration of the period, and note this, of the period specified in the notice, so the PDA can choose whatever period for this kind of a notice of to demolish or to remove a structure. Let me continue. Or such longer period as the authority may allow, the authority or any department or officer of the government or contractor may pull down the work or effect such alterations therein, and the authority may recover from that person the expenses reasonably incurred in so doing as a civil debt. So I just read this to indicate what we have been doing collaboratively with the Ministry of Agriculture. We've drafted a concept note where we are going to be creating a coalition to work with a number of other entities like the police force, the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, Port Authority, Airport Authority, Ministry of Infrastructure, MIT as well, Ministry of Agriculture. And collaboratively, we're looking at areas where development needs more orderly engagements, I would say, and hope that we can develop plans for those areas. We have something under the Act called a Special Enforcement Area, which we'll be looking to. It has never been used, but we will use that in some areas where it's deemed troubling. We can go in there, determine some specific regulations for those areas, and under that, you can have persons either moved or regularize the type of development you want in that specific area. But as regards to demolition, I just want to go ahead and say that the PDA takes no pleasure in having to demolish structures. People, they put out various amounts of capital expenditure in building, and so we don't want to see people having to lose their assets. So we're asking persons to please abide with section 16, which says to please seek permission to develop. And if you have not done so, then section 54 sometimes will have to come into play, where we will have to go the hard route of seeking given notice of demolition and thereafter carrying out such works. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen, for that update. We now open the floor to members of the media here present to pose your questions to members of the head table. We move to MTV.
Lily Pascal, MTV. I have a question with part A and B, or two questions if you put it that way, for Minister for MIT, who is sitting under the cap for Honorable Minister Lennox Andrews, Minister for Agriculture, Lands and Forestry as well. So how is state-owned land identified, managed and protected from illegal occupation? And what efforts are being made to educate citizens about the risks of squatting and the benefits of legal ownership? I feel as if squatting is something that is common, in my opinion, but we only hear of the risks and the severity of it when a situation arises. For example, the situation in Guankai. So let us know.
Well, first of all, for someone to see that squatting is maybe acceptable or legal or is a norm, remember we could do things and think it's okay, but it's not okay, number one. Number two, we have to be careful about this because there are some law-abiding citizens that go about things the right way. And if, as much as we want to help people, if we allow people to just go and do things anyhow, that could be a big problem for the country. Number three is that we must plan. You can have development, you can have people occupying an area, but if you have no planning, where will the roads go? Where will the infrastructure go? Yeah? Where will the telephones poles go, etc.? And if people just go and just put things anyhow, for example, in Frequency right now, there's a piece of land where someone has access to the land, but he cannot legally access the land because it is in the middle of land surrounding it. So if all the neighbors were to fence it, how would he have access to his land? If we allow the ministry to guide the process, it means that the ministry will make sure all these things are in place. And also, going forward, we understand, and sometimes I feel like the ministry is getting licks for even trying to help and trying to be lenient. Yeah, because let's take the Guanca issue for example. I know since before I became MP and in government, people have been occupying lands up there, and illegally. And the only thing the ministry is putting its foot down on is saying that area overlooking the hotel belt, no. But the ministry has been lenient in people coming there and occupying lands. If the ministry was very strict on it, what would have happened was that everyone who went to occupy lands there had to move. But that was not the case. So I'm saying to sometimes I feel the ministry is getting licks for even trying to be humane, trying to help, and not enforcing the law throughout. Yeah? But people, and again let's use, because you use the Guanca issue, so I want to bring it up again. You have people who applied to the ministry for lands. So the notion that they did not know what they have to do is false, because if you apply, you know you have to apply. And without getting approval, you go ahead and build. So it shows that, you ask the government for land, you got no answer, but you still go ahead and build. And make it worse, the situation is worse than when you even go ahead and build a concrete structure, meaning that you do not even get permission from the planning unit to build the structure. We had a case in Moline where you had the slippage. I understand that before the people went to the planning for approval, and planning rejected it. And someone gave them permission to build there, and you see later on there was a slippage, and the same government now have to come back and pay the people for the lands, etc. So now we are paying for for people doing their own thing. So I'm saying that we cannot just build this country by just saying anything goes, because it means, what about the person who is doing the right thing? You are saying to them, don't bother do the right thing, because others are doing it illegally and getting away with it, and you are doing the right thing, and you are waiting for how long? So just go ahead and so we have to be careful how we go forward. As much as we want to help people, we have to do things the right way and the lawful way, and that's the only way it could be sustainable going forward. What's your second question?
Will you answer the second?
Okay.
First is, how is state-owned land identified, managed, and protected from the illegal
Right.
squatters?
So if you are looking for a piece of government land, we have a Ministry of Agriculture and Lands. You visit the ministry, right? You have Mr. Sinclair there. You have everyone that works in the unit, right? And you go there, and you can apply for the lands, and basically if you are interested in lands, and you go through the process to let the ministry guide you. So there's a ministry for that. So I'm saying you cannot act outside of the ministry, because we have a ministry dedicated just for that. So I will let the PS also answer part of the question if he wants to, because I think he'll be in a good position to answer.
I just want to add to the minister's point, because it's good for us to know our history. We went through a period of slavery. We had estates owned lands through slave masters. And when we were getting out of slavery, there were arrangements where persons who were working on the lands, as the land transit through the crown, that you allow them to remain on the land and live on the land. So it appears that people take that information from there and think that they can just use land. But there was a circumstance surrounding that. So if persons want to go back to understand where squatting started, some people may want to stay from there. So it doesn't mean that it was legitimized. The one issue around that, right? Because persons always say they know of this person or this grand person who was on that land and they went there and built. But you have to understand the circumstances wrong. That doesn't give you the right to come now and say that you're squatting. So for lands to be identified, the Ministry of Lands have the responsibility to determine where Crown lands are. Because some persons think areas that are free are Crown lands and it is private property. We have a lands registry in the country where lands are registered. So people can determine which lands belong to the Crown and which lands belong to the private owners. So when persons apply, the first quest is for the ministry to determine if lands is available. And then you follow the steps as the director indicated in his discourse, that you would have to go through and survey and identify and do the plan and so on before you go to cabinet. So that's normally the processes that we follow.
But I also want to say this, right? Interject and say this. The notion is that most people feel like government have a lot of lands. We feel like we can just go place and just squat because government have a lot of lands. The truth is, government only owns 10% of the total lands in Grenada. So imagine you have only 10% of the total lands in Grenada. We have to protect it because we do not have much. Yeah. So I just want to bring that point in for those who are listening. Yeah.
Most of it is the forest reserve as well.
And look, Mr. Sinclair saying that most of it are forest reserve. So then again, that 10% could even go down to 5 or 4% on the lands that we have. So imagine if you just let people just go and just squat and just do all these things, what will happen?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Shania McIntosh, and I'm representing the Grenada Broadcasting Network. So the first question I have is based on the land regularization. I would like to know the application process, from the application process and then to the legal documentation. What is an estimated time frame for someone who wishes to obtain Crown land? Can it take 15 years, 10 years? I would like to know the estimated time frame.
All right, and that's a healthy question. Thank you for that question. Because it goes back to expectations. Some persons feel when the land regulation body comes around and collect the data, they automatically get through. The process could be determined based on your circumstance. So no one person will have the same time frame. So we want to make that clear. Because for instance, if you are living on a lot that you squatted for 15 years, when we collect the data, the research must be done. One, you have to determine if the lot is truly vacant. There are times when we do the research, the lot belongs to somebody else. So you see straight away your process becomes longer. Because we have to identify the person that the lands belong to. If the person had a legitimate claim to the land, then we have to come to an understanding where we can relocate them. Identifying a piece to relocate may take some time. And you cannot finish regularize that person until you find an allocated piece for the person that is affected. Right? Whereas somebody else may come forward, all the evidence is showing that they paid in full. Once as you're paid in full, then we have to go through the process to make sure the plan is appropriate for where you are. So the surveyors will make sure your plan is appropriate. After your plan is appropriate, the process go through to make sure that you are tax compliant, so you must pay all your tax. If you didn't pay all your tax, then you'll have an issue. You'd have to pay your tax to forward the process to the next level. So your tax is paid, the conveyance is drafted. The conveyance is drafted. If you have interest, you'd have to pay all the interest. And when you pay all the interest, then your name is now cleared. And then the documentation will be signed, and you have to go through the Governor General for signing. It has to come back to us to go for registration. So you have to be registered. So these are processes that takes time. So the circumstances relating to someone can determine how long. The government in its quest now is saying we want to fast track the process for some people under the waiver policy. So you're paid, you have everything in place, well, not paid, but you have all your processes in place, but you didn't finish. If now we'll notify you, you come to us. If you can pay out the principal within 90 days of we notifying you, then there is a possibility of waiving your interest. So the interest and penalty now becomes less for you. So you just pay out the principal, and then it's easy now to finalize your process so you could get your conveyance. So to explain that one person and may not have the same time span to wait. It's the circumstances surrounding your issue. Okay?
Someone who obtained Crown Land, what is like the payment plan? Is it affordable for many Grenadians?
The rules allow for, if you obtain, we get an approval from cabinet for an allotment, you have 12 years, 12 and a half years. 12 years to finish.
There's a 10% deposit for the...
Yeah. All right. So let's say the land costs $10,000. Your first price, your first payment upfront is 10%. Right? So you know you have to come and pay just $1,000 upfront. That's all. And then you pay as you wish for the next 12 years. So if you want to pay $50 a month, $25 a month. But you have to keep in mind, that's the part that most persons get confused with. There is a 5% interest on the remaining balance. So the longer you take to finish pay is the bigger the interest you accrue. And that is why we have a lot of circumstances where the interest owed by most persons now is more than the cost of the land. And that is a bottleneck for regularizing some people. And this is why the government is willing to forfeit $10 million in this process to say, okay, your interest is high, we will forego the interest, but you would have to come and pay out the principal within 90 days. And if you do that, then your process can be finalized. Okay?
Thank you very much there for those questions. We still have WeFM within the room, and we'll ask her to pose her questions now.
Good morning, everyone, to the head table. Just to piggyback off of Liddy's question, who are presenting in WeFM. She made a comment as it relates to how would you educate persons. We know that some people know, but they pay like if they don't know. We're being honest here. Would Siobhan or the Minister for Agriculture be on the front line explaining to persons, hey, this is wrong, it's illegal, it cannot happen. Can we see more of that, please?
That I can guarantee. The intention is to use the land regularization team, a number of persons go there, to sensitize persons as to the process, the intent as much as possible. We are from time to time going to use the social media, Facebook. The ministry has its PR team. We're going to be doing small flyers and so on from time to time to circulate. This is the reason why we are starting now, to see how much we can keep reminding persons, sensitizing persons about the intent and the rules and laws surrounding land. Because if your land issue in your country becomes out of control, you would have a social nightmare. Good? So that's it.
We also have the Canadian Voice joining us via the Zoom platform. Do you wish to pose a question?
Yes, good morning. Anisha Samuel here. In relation to the Guankai issue, how many homes are done for demolition? And in the process of demolition was started last Friday, and we understand that some asked for additional time to sort themselves out. So what is your next step in terms of enforcement at the Guankai area?
I'm sorry. So let me start by saying there was about approximately 7 homes in the Guankai area, number one. And number two, some have asked for some more time, and I know they are making preparations to go elsewhere. And when I say making preparations, we are working with them to get temporary housing, and even to bring them to a situation where it can be permanent going forward. Yeah, and I want to extend by saying that we are not just looking to relocate them into somewhere that they could, live and so, but we are trying to work with them in terms of getting employment by assisting the overall man to improve his situation, and not just, because sometimes when these things happen, it's a symptom of a bigger problem. So we are not just addressing the situation, but we are addressing the bigger problem in the scheme of things. And you will see by this weekend, some will be moving out of there. I even offer to come with them to give assistance where I can, so that they can remove the structure in an orderly fashion, because they might need the materials, in the future. So I must say that they understand. They we have no issues at all, and it seems to be people who are not affected are finding more issues than the people who are affected. Number one, and number two, I will mention this because I try to maybe downplay it and not say anything at all. But it's sad to see, like, the folks who are really affected by the Guanca issue, who have years ago, and that are keeping quiet and they are working with us for a better alternative. And sometimes you hear the folks that are making the most noise are the folks that have alternative arrangement. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that they have other places to live then, basically. Yeah, and when I hear folks trying to make this issue like an issue like the government don't care and this and that, and, I'm like, folks, let's just be honest. You have somewhere else living, you try to grab some of the lands in Guanca, and it didn't work. But to say otherwise, like if it was, because I know the situation, I know the people. I tend to not to say anything because just not to get into the back and forth. But I'm saying the people who are really affected, these are the people who we are working with. Just last Saturday, a young lady was building a structure, was working in a community. She was living in Guanca and she was building a structure. She asked for some help and I'm trying to help her now. She's elsewhere, trying to help her in building the structure. So from the government perspective, we are helping some of these people to relocate and to be in a better position. Yeah. So all in all, for the Guanca, I want to applaud the folks who, when we spoke to them, they understand. And I'm telling you, up there, we are one big family. Yeah. When I came into office, that was one of the first places that I said I was going to help, because I saw political gimmicks being played with them in the past. And since 2022 to now, they have gotten roads, they have gotten tank, they have gotten water lines, they have gotten solar lights, and we are really trying our best as a government to treat them, as people, because sometimes we tend to forget how they were treated before. And while we are on the squatting issue, I can tell you that, there were cases where some government officials from the previous administration sent people up there to squat. And when that happens, what happens? You see, you send someone to squat, number one, they cannot get water to have bathing facility and toilet facility. So you're actually creating an environment that is not the best of there. And with this administration, we are trying to treat people with dignity, right? Treat them with respect. And yes, we know that they were victims of situations, but it doesn't mean that we have to leave them like that. So we are assisting. The only issue with the Guanca is, since I've seen Psycho Bob and the guys being up there regular, telling people not to occupy this space here in Guanca. And some folks ripped down the notice and they went ahead and built. Yeah? So, all in all, it's a situation where, we as the government, we are really trying to help the people while adhering to the law, so that everyone can come out a winner. Well, not a winner, but everyone can come out in a better position after this. Thank you.
So I just have a question to pose that came in on the WhatsApp. The person would like to know, in terms of squatters and the construction on putting down of concrete structures, in terms of demolition and so, what is the process? So I'm not sure which three will answer.
Pitch in on that, because as Mr. Gilbert rightly explained what is quoted in the Physical Authority Act, it's immaterial what you construct. If you are not complying with the law, what your material of construction is not a matter for determination. The determination has to be on the legality of what is before us, so we act accordingly. In following through the Guangai, one of the structures is concrete. The demolition plan is continuing. One of the issues was getting the machine there on time. And once as we can get the machine access the site, that would continue. So that process is continuing to answer specific to the person who posed the question. Further to that, the minister tried to explain about the persons going there and the ministry involvement. For instance, I have before me the names of the persons who are down for demolition and the dates on which they were notified. And if I can just run through one of the persons. They were notified on the 10th of the 10th month of 23, on the 16th of the 10th month of 23, on the 1st of the 11th month of 23, on the 22nd of the 3rd month of 24, on the 25th of the 3rd month of 26, and coming back to the point of the final notification on the 7th of the 4th month of 26. So it's not that the persons are not engaged, right? The ministry tries its best when it comes by information where persons are squatting to notify them, constantly advising them that they should not do what they're doing, and some persons feel they can continue. Further to what the minister mentioned about lands, the concept of Crown lands going to citizens was based on a philosophical term, land for the landless. You try to help the persons who are unfortunate to build themselves. But among the list, we have information that 2 of the persons there are in full capacity to develop, well, the director is in 3, to develop themselves in other locations, apart from squatting. Imagine there's one person who has lands in Fort Judy, but you're squatting. I mean, is that fair? So that's why the minister mentioned the government quest is to make sure we can develop ourselves with fairness for our citizens. And if we do that in peace, we'll avoid all these squatting issues. All right? Thank you.
Okay, so do we have any more questions? We don't seem to have any more questions from. I've just given a bit of important information there to share. We have 2 people to collect their deeds, and the names are Ms. Joanna Lett of Grandlands Valley and Yvonne Aberdeen, also of Grandlands Valley. So these are 2 people who will be smiling because they'll be presented with the deeds to their lands. And we know that there are others who are waiting with bated breath for their names to be announced as well. So once you go through the correct processes, as was mentioned here this morning during this press conference, you too will be able to collect your deeds for your lands to say that this is my own, and you continue to do your necessary development. At this point, I would like to ask the members of the head table who have any final comments to make, that they can go through and do so. Do we have the 2 persons here with us to collect the documentations? Okay. So if we can invite them in at this moment, and so we invite Ms. Joanna Lett in, and also Ms. Yvonne Aberdeen, and then the presentation, I assume, will be made between the Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary. So you can just stand and we can do it. So the name of the person coming first, that's Ms. Joanna, or that's Ms. Yvonne? Okay, so we do invite Ms. Yvonne Aberdeen to receive her documents, and she would do so from the Honorable Minister. So you can just come forward. And you just enter in the center there, and you can.
Outside.
Minister, hold on.
So, on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Land Regularisation team, we would like to present you with your deed for your land, and I hope that you will use it for the betterment of yourself and your family. And I want to congratulate you for owning a piece of the Grenadian pie, which is the land you're on now. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right.
I know we're actually in a press conference, Minister, but as one of the persons who's receiving her documents today, I would just like you to see if it was like, how does it feel to finally hold your document within your hands?
I feel very happy because it's been a long time now. I've been waiting for this.
and I'm so happy to receive it today. No more waiting again.
Thank you very much. And that was Ms. Aberdeen. And we have the next recipient, which will be Ms. Joanna Lett, also of Grandance Valley.
Bennett is only so excited today. Right. Joanna. So, Miss Joanna, Miss or Mrs.? I want to make sure I use the right title. Mrs. Joanna, again, we want to congratulate you for actually getting your deed for the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands. And again, as I told the person before, now you can say that you own a piece of the Grenadian pie of the land, and you did it the right way. So I want to say congratulations, and I wish you all the best going forward.
Look forward to your picture. And Ms. Joanna, would you just like to make a few words? Say a few words, sorry.
Thank you. I'm so glad and I'm so happy because was a long waiting, and I'm so happy that it's in my hands now, and God bless.
Thank you very much. So this concludes our presentation to the two recipients of the deed. We would like to reiterate to the others, please continue and do what is right. Go through the necessary processes to ensure that you can, as the minister said, receive a piece. To wrap this conference, I would just like to ask the minister if he has any final words, and we would move that straight around the table.
In closing, let us be reminded that this effort is not new, nor is it accidental. It is rooted in a clear promise to the people of this country. As stated in our manifesto, we committed to embark on a program to provide land title, deeds of ownership to all families who have been continuously occupying government lands for residential purposes for more than 10 years. This is the principle guiding our actions today. We are not simply managing land. We are delivering on a promise, one that speaks to fairness, dignity, and opportunity. But we are equally committed to ensuring that this promise is fulfilled in a structured way. Also lawful and sustainable, so that every title granted stands on a solid foundation. To the people of Grenada, this is your government at work, honoring its word, addressing real challenges, and building a future where more families can stand secure on land they can truly call their own. And I want to close by really and truly giving credit to the land regularization team for the wonderful work they are doing. I know they are going all around, from in St. George, in St. Andrew, in St. David's, all over. And I want to say job well done. And to PS and the entire Ministry of Agriculture, I want to say congratulations to the minister, job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Williams. And I just want, before we wrap, just to highlight a couple of the important pointers that actually came through and we had from the PS. He mentioned that the approach is a structured and deliberate, and the ministry is seeking patience and cooperation, and while we work to correct past practices and implement systems that will ensure fairness and clarity moving forward. And if we move on to Ms. Judian, she said that the program is not just administrative, but a pathway to security, stability, and opportunity for our citizens. Significant progress has been made, with decades-old records now being reviewed and regularized. The government is modernizing land management through digitization, improved systems, and structured process. And from the Planning and Development Authority, the CEO said the responsibility is to balance individual rights with orderly national development, sustainable land use, and it must always be guided by the public interest. And finally, I just want to give you a pointer from Mr. Seth Sinclair, and he is the Director of Lands and Surveys, and he said the process begins with a simple application, just a letter to the ministry. Every application goes through survey, evaluation, and cabinet approval. Applicants are given up to 12 years to complete payments. There is a passbook system that ensures accountability and tracks all payments. Once payments are completed, ownership is formalized. So those were some of the important pointers that came through, and we do hope that all those of you who joined us for this press conference took in the information that you would share it with others so that we can start, to be a little less lawless and do what is correct. I am Sherry and Noel, thanking you so much for joining us for this press conference. Have yourselves a blessed day.